You pull into a downtown garage, take the ticket, and leave your car inside a rectangle of painted concrete. Building that one rectangle in an American parking deck averages $52,000. Before the land, before the architects. The average used car sitting in it was listed at just over $27,000 in the summer of 2026. The box costs about twice the car. And that is the ordinary end of the market. In 2021, at a development called Mount Nicholson on Hong Kong's Peak, one parking bay sold for more than 10 million Hong Kong dollars, about 1.3 million US, the most expensive parking space ever publicly reported. Not even an open sale, a closed tender offered only to residents. No higher price has been reported since. So treat the ticket as a paper trail. Take one real building, the city-owned garage at Union Square in San Francisco. Its posted rate in 2026 peaks at $6 an hour. A full day tops out at $46. Where those dollars go once the barrier drops is the entire hidden economics of parking. Follow them hand to hand. On paper, this is the simplest business in the city. No inventory, no showroom. If the gate is automated, whole shifts pass without a single employee on site. The customers arrive on their own, store themselves in tidy rows, and pay on the way out. Almost nothing about that first impression survives contact with the numbers, because the product was never the concrete. What a garage sells is nearness. A few hundred steps to the office, the courthouse, the stadium, the operating room. Rent the same rectangle beside a wheat field, and it earns nothing at all. Every strange number in this story flows from that single fact. You are paying for where the box stands, not for what it is. Start at the cheap end. A flat surface lot is barely construction at all. Take a vacant parcel, lay asphalt, paint stripes, add lights and a gate, and you are selling parking within weeks. The catch is geometry. A flat lot stores very few cars on a great deal of land, and downtown, land is the one ingredient nobody can make more of. Stack the cars, and the bill arrives. A UCLA survey of construction costs in 17 American cities puts an above-ground deck at $52,000 per space on average, from $29,000 in Phoenix and Washington up to $99,000 in Portland, Oregon. Columns, ramps, ventilation, sprinklers, an elevator. Every space carries a slice of all of it. Dig instead, and the price climbs again. Underground spaces in the same survey average $73,000 each, roughly 40% more than building upward, running from $40,000 in Washington to $111,000 in Portland. Below the street, you are paying to haul earth out, hold groundwater back, and carry the weight of whatever stands on your roof. And every one of those figures is a floor, not a ceiling. They are modeled estimates, and they leave out the land itself, the architects, the permits, the financing. Everything except the structure. Then comes the overhead nobody rents. Ramps, drive aisles, stairwells, and elevator cores all have to be built and lit, and not one of them ever earns a dollar. So the owner starts from a strange position. An enormous cost, paid once, sunk into concrete that cannot move, cannot be sold off in pieces, and cannot do anything else, while the money comes back a few dollars at a time, at whatever rate the surrounding neighborhood happens to justify that afternoon. Every garage serves two customers who barely resemble each other. The contract parker buys a month at a time, taps a card at the gate, and stops thinking about it. The stranger circles the block once, pulls in for 3 hours, and may never come back. The craft of running a garage is deciding how much of the building each of them gets. The contract parker is the steady one. At Union Square, the posted price is $415 a month, $565 for a reserved space. And that is the city-owned garage, deliberately priced under the private market around it. A rent roll of steady names is what lenders like, and garages get bought and financed on exactly that. The stranger is where the margin lives. That same garage caps a day at $46. Keep one space turning over at the daily cap every working day for a month, and it grosses about $1,000, more than double the monthly permit. But strangers only appear when something nearby is worth walking to, which makes that revenue exactly as reliable as the neighborhood itself. So operators tune the mix like a portfolio. Sell too many monthly permits and the deck is full by 8 in the morning, with nothing left for the midday visitors who pay the best rates. Sell too few, and a wet Tuesday in February turns the whole building into an echoing concrete cave. This is also why parking prices look irrational from the sidewalk. They barely track the owner's costs at all. They track how badly people want to stand on one particular corner. Game nights, court dates, conference weeks. The concrete never changes. The only thing being repriced, hour by hour, is the address. Now start handing the money up the chain, because the person who owns a garage almost never runs it. Owners hire operators, companies that bring the staff, the payment systems, the insurance, the signage. And the contract between them takes one of two shapes, which quietly decide who gets rich and who gets hurt in a bad year. Under a management agreement, the operator runs the building for a fee and passes the takings upstairs. The owner keeps the good months and also owns the empty ones. Every quiet Tuesday lands on the owner's side of the ledger, while the operator's fee arrives either way. Under a lease, it flips. The operator promises the owner a fixed rent and keeps whatever the building earns above it. Now the operator is the one betting on the neighborhood, and the owner has traded the upside away for a number that never surprises anyone, which is precisely the kind of number banks and pension funds pay a premium for. Now watch those $6 an hour get carved. The card network takes its slice at the gate. The operator takes a fee, or the margin. In San Francisco, the city then takes a quarter of every off-street parking dollar as tax, 25%, straight off the top. Insurance and repairs claim their share next. The owner is paid out of whatever survives all of that. And the building itself fights back. A parking deck lives outdoors by design, soaked, frozen, then salted every winter. And road salt is slow poison for reinforced concrete. Decks get repaired on a schedule, structurally and expensively, forever. The tax bill and the insurance premium never miss a year either. Owning almost nothing, it turns out, costs about as much as owning a building. In 2008, Chicago decided it no longer wanted to run its own parking. The city offered its entire on-street meter system, roughly 36,000 metered spaces, on a 75-year lease. The winning terms were made public on a Tuesday at the start of December. 2 days later, the city council approved them, 40 votes to 5. The price was about $1.15 billion, and in February 2009, the keys and the cash changed hands. 75 years of every coin in every meter, sold in a single transaction. A sum that size lands like a windfall. It is also the last meter revenue Chicago will see until the 2080s. 6 months later, the city's own Inspector General priced the mistake. His office valued the meter system, conservatively, at about $2.1 billion. And concluded Chicago had been paid $974 million less than the system was worth to the city. 46% below value, on the inspector's own arithmetic, for a deal approved in 2 days. Then it got stranger. Whenever Chicago now takes metered spaces out of service, for a festival, a construction season, a bike lane, the contract entitles the company to compensation for the lost meter time. By the count of the City Council's own analysts, those payments have passed $160 million since 2009. The city pays, in effect, for the use of its own streets. Nothing else in this business shows so plainly what parking is worth across decades, or how badly a seller can misprice a river of small payments when what it wants is one large payment now. 75 years of coins, valued against a budget deadline, approved in 2 days, and gone. Underneath every one of these deals sits the quiet variable: the land. In 2019, a parking bay inside The Center, a 73-story office tower in central Hong Kong, changed hands for 7.6 million Hong Kong dollars, just under $1 million US. Nobody paid that for concrete. They paid it for everything standing around the concrete. It is why surface lots survive for decades in the middle of expensive downtowns, looking like neglect. They are not neglect. They are land banks, a way to hold a corner that keeps rising in value, cover the taxes with hourly fees, and wait. The cars were never really the point. They are what the land does while its owner waits for a better offer. But holding gets steadily harder, because the tax bill follows the value of the land, not the takings at the gate. As towers rise around a lot, its assessment rises with them, and the same trickle of hourly fees has to cover a growing annual bill for the privilege of storing empty cars on prime ground. Which produces the strangest fact in this whole business. A downtown parking lot is in competition with its own dirt. Every year the neighborhood improves. The alternative use, the tower, the hotel, the apartments, bids a little higher against the parking. The garage does not have to fail to disappear. It just has to lose an argument with its own foundation. For most of the last century, American zoning codes ordered parking into existence. A minimum number of spaces came attached to every apartment block, every restaurant, every office floor, whether or not anybody would use them. The spaces were never optional, and they were never free. Their cost folded into rents and menu prices, paid partly by people who arrived on foot. The result is an inventory nobody has ever fully counted. Published estimates of America's parking stock run from roughly 700 million spaces to 2 billion, several for every car in the country. And much of it sits empty for much of the day. A century of code built a stockpile no market ever asked for. Then the law began to retreat. Buffalo, New York became the first big American city to scrap its minimum citywide in 2017. By mid-2026, the tally had passed 100 U.S. jurisdictions, 116 by the Parking Reform Network's count, including Minneapolis, Denver, Baltimore, and San Francisco. Cities stopped ordering the product. Parking now has to earn its keep. Buffalo shows what happens next. In the first 2 years after repeal, mixed-use projects approved there planned 53% less parking than the old code demanded. 4 added none of their own, sharing spaces nearby, though single-use projects largely built what they always had. The customer the law required to exist is fading, and every existing garage is being repriced around that. Every threat so far moved slowly. Then 2020 arrived, and the deck's best customer, the 5-day office commuter, vanished within a month. In San Francisco's wider Bay Area, office badge swipes settled at roughly 40% of their pre-pandemic volume, and stayed there. On paper, that is the scenario that kills a downtown garage. The garage did not die. San Francisco's controller now budgets the city's parking tax at almost $89 million a year, approximately back at its level before the pandemic, at least in raw dollars. The controller's own explanation is the quiet part. Commuters who did return shifted trips from public transit into cars. Fewer people come downtown. The ones who come, drive. Part of the answer is that a parking tax never only taxed commuters. It lands on everyone who stores a car downtown for any reason: tourists, hospital visits, ball games, hotel stays. The office was one demand source among several, and the garage, as ever, was selling the address rather than the desk. The box survived the customer it was supposedly built for. The sharpest signal came from the buy side. In May 2024, Metropolis, a computer vision payments company, took SP Plus, an operator with over 4,000 locations, private for about $1.5 billion, a premium near 50%, right after a record year. Not a rescue. Cameras read the car, the gate opens, the charge simply happens, and parking is only the first place the system is meant to run. So the next time a barrier lifts for you, you know where the money goes. The card network, the operator, City Hall, the insurer, and now, maybe a camera that read your plate on the way in. Everyone in that line is betting that tomorrow, people will still pay to stand exactly here. You were never renting concrete. You were renting the spot beneath it, which is how an empty rectangle comes to cost twice the car inside it.